Definitely a feeling in myself.
Yeah.
Thinking how I used to think.
Yeah.
It sounds weird, but how I used to think, I'd think of things positively.
Yeah.
I'm now thinking about everything very negatively, not
Yeah.
seeing much good in anything I'm doing or anything around me.
Yeah.
Not really wanting to do anything, which is unlike me at the time. I was very wanting to go out, do stuff, and all of a sudden I'm just shutting down, like socially.
Yeah.
At the time, it didn't feel like that I was helping myself, and my thoughts were taking darker turns.
Yeah.
Really just starting to hate my life and how it was.
Hey guys, welcome to the 5th episode, I believe, and the focus is going to be talking to someone about their experience of depression, and mostly how they've overcome it, because they're doing quite well these days, really. I just wanted to say, if you're enjoying the podcast or you're gaining anything from them, then please like, subscribe, comment your thoughts, really trying to build a community here. And like I said in the last episode, I'm always on the lookout for new guests. So if you can come down to East Sussex, or you live near here and you've got a story to tell related to mental health in some way, then get in touch on Instagram or TikTok. I'll pick up the messages and we can just have a conversation, get to know each other, and see if you're suitable to come on the podcast. Hello, Owen.
Hi, sir.
How are you?
Very well, thank you. Very well.
Good. So the focus of this is going to be depression, right? And I said in my introduction that it's going to be more of a focus on, you went through a depressive period and you kind of managed to just get yourself out of it, right? And you would say that generally you're doing decent these days.
Doing all right now.
Yeah, good. Okay, so let's start then. If you can just give me a rough overview of the issues you had and kind of, I guess, what sort of age they started and they ended.
Yeah, so it was late 2017. I started to feel a bit depressed. Not to be fair, did not realise that was what I was feeling at the time.
Yeah.
Then going into 2018-19, that's when I really hit a bit of a downward spiral.
Okay.
Depression.
Okay, and when would you say that kind of, like, don't go into too much detail because we'll go through the whole sort of chronological order, but when would you say you then started to, like, get over that?
Just before lockdown, maybe a bit before.
Okay, so we're talking about a sort of, what, a 3-year period then?
Yeah. 2.5.
2.5 year. Okay, so let's just start with, where did this begin? Talk me through the kind of first thoughts you had around, I'm feeling sort of not right.
Yeah, so late 2017, coming out from not a great place with my family, wasn't feeling all that great, and wasn't doing much in my life, probably didn't help. Started to get quite depressed, not realising at the time how I was feeling, not feeling that was something was right within me. And then as we moved later through the years, it got worse, which I didn't think it was going to, which was also new to me at the time. So I hadn't been depressed. I was quite a happy kid. So
Okay, so let's try and, like, really focus in, right? So you say that you felt that you just didn't feel quite right. What kind of, like, what made you feel like that? Like, what thoughts were you having that thought that they aren't right thoughts, or was it a feeling? Was it
definitely a feeling in myself?
Yeah.
Thinking how I used to think.
Yeah.
It sounds weird, but how I used to think, I'd think of things positively.
Yeah.
I'm now thinking about everything very negatively, not seeing much good in anything I'm doing or anything around me.
Yeah.
Not really wanting to do anything, which is unlike me at the time. I was very wanting to go out, do stuff, and all of a sudden I'm just shutting down, like, socially, and it didn't seem right at the time.
So you started to not go out as much. Did you start sort of leaning back on maybe, like, I don't know, just like binge watching TV or like playing games, like things that were a lot more?
Yeah, so definitely I started playing games and binge watching TV.
Yeah.
And times where people would like to come out, and I'd rather just sit in bed doing nothing all day. Didn't have the energy to go out anymore. Didn't feel like it. Didn't feel right to go do that.
Yeah.
How I was thinking.
Okay, and then that sort of, you sort of thought in your head that that would kind of just get better on its own?
Yeah, 100%. I just thought I'm just in a bit of a rut. When I get up and start doing something, I did have a job at the time, so if I want to get a job, I'll be alright.
And how did that? Because we spoke a bit about how we both started at the same college, and I dropped out after a year. You dropped out. Yeah. How long? So you went to college, and then what kind of started happening there?
So yeah, I was at Baswick and I dropped out. As you know, I don't actually even know how long I was there.
No.
I know it was not very long. It was definitely before Christmas.
Yeah.
But I remember starting to not go into college, finding everything too hard. Even just getting out of the house to just go to lessons was just impossible.
So you think that was rather than sort of the stopping college, not having much to do, kind of caused this issue. This was before,
it was before.
So the reason you think you stepped away from college.
So I think that might have been where it got worse. In all honesty, because that's when I really stopped doing anything at all.
Yeah.
So then I started to spiral more. But yeah, I dropped out because just couldn't see it happening at the time.
Yeah, and did you start to think that did you start to think, okay, what am I gonna do next then?
Yeah.
Because did you start to have sort of maybe anxiety about where your life would then go?
100%, because I'm doing relatively hard courses at Baswick, then dropping out, and I didn't join college until the next year. I didn't go straight into that year into another college. Yeah. So that whole year was just anxiety filled, not knowing
what was going to be next.
I didn't think I was going to go back to college.
Yeah.
Even though I knew I should. All this is flowing through my head, and it wasn't a good place to be mentally.
Yeah, and did you start to try and think like, okay, what could I do to at least earn some money? What could I do work? But like you felt like you didn't have
so
anything in you.
I had obviously parents in my ear trying to get me to do that, and I knew as well I needed to.
Yeah.
But I'd look, and then even if I got an application somewhere, I would just ignore it, thinking I can't do it. I need to just sit in my bed, and that's all I can do.
Rot away, basically. Yeah. Okay, and before this kind of came about, do you think there was anything that led up to this? Was there anything in your childhood that was like not a normal experience compared to maybe other kids?
So I'd say I had quite a happy childhood. I was most of the time a very happy child. I did have my parents that got divorced, which was not a very happy time for myself.
And what age was that? Did that coincide with this, or was that?
So that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
That was when I was 9. I do remember during the time where I was starting to feel a bit sad. I was getting heated with both of my parents.
Yeah.
Maybe just being a bit of a teenager.
Yeah.
Emotions running high. But I do remember that a bit of fuel inside me, thinking it's coming up. But
yeah, okay. And you say about your parents kind of sort of trying to encourage you to, do something, sort of get a goal. How did your mum and your dad live separately, right?
Yeah, they do.
And how did your mum and your dad react to it differently? Were they what?
Yeah, they reacted very differently.
Did they?
Yeah. So my mum has had lots of trouble with mental health herself. A lot through her life. So she was very understanding. And we'll get onto it later, but she was the one who got me to go get my go to the doctor and get the help. My dad, quite the opposite, doesn't really understand it all.
Yeah.
So I had him just trying to force me to get out and do something.
Yeah.
While my mum was a bit more understanding of what I was going through.
It's almost kind of like a bit of a balance is actually almost quite nice in that situation, because my parents are similar and it's the same way around. My mum is very patient with me, and I guess she kind of trusts that things will just kind of fall into place, where my dad's very like, no, you need to like do this and that and see what stick, basically. Like, you need to start working towards something. And in his head, I guess it's like frustration, but he thinks that if you can force someone to do something, but when you're in a place like you were in, and like a lot of people watching this would have been in, and I've been in, getting yourself to do that, it's no easy thing. It's not, someone telling you to do it isn't going to get you to go and do it. And that's the thing with especially depression. I think it takes all the energy out of you. and it makes it really hard to find the effort to do anything really. But yeah, it's always interesting how different parents kind of deal with it. So yeah, so you talked a bit about how they kind of, these thoughts and feelings kind of got worse. Can you sort of elaborate on how they got worse?
Yeah, so I think this is the time I've stewed in my
Yeah.
room, not done anything, really started to just overthink everything I'm doing,
Yeah.
understanding that I'm not actually doing anything, so overthinking nothing.
Yeah.
And this is when I really started to despise what I was becoming,
Yeah.
and doing that only just made everything worse. So I
Yeah.
would then go back to my room after, say I did manage to get out with my friends, I'd go back and just hate what I've just done.
Yeah.
Like, that's not what I should be doing. I should be trying to do this, trying to do that.
Yeah.
When realistically I was probably helping myself, but didn't realise it. But
Yeah.
at the time, it didn't feel like that I was helping myself, and my thoughts were taking darker turns.
Yeah.
Really just starting to hate my life and how I was.
So by that, do you mean that you would go out, you'd see friends, and your brain would tell you that you should be going out trying to get a job? You should
Yeah,
be
exactly.
So in your head, going out and seeing friends was not really benefiting you in any way.
And at the time, I remember I thought of my friends as like mental health support. I'd always have go out when you can to try it, make yourself feel better.
Yeah,
And
which is right.
Yeah, it's right.
It is right.
When I started feeling worse, I was starting to see that as a bad thing, and I was starting to just not think that my friends were going to help me, and I needed to do it all alone, which I didn't.
Okay, and do you think that's kind of because you just got into a place where your brain was sort of almost just lying to you, really, and trying to make you feel shit? Did it feel a bit like that?
It was definitely not my own. I had like how obviously depression's talking over that. My brain would never think my friends are not there to help. They're always there to help. So it was a weird one to think. And I used to see my friends as, I know, just always there for me. And I was starting to feel like I might be dragging them down with me, trying to be there all the time.
Feeling like a burden.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and how you actually interacted with your friends? Because this sounds very like these are all the thoughts going on inside your head, but it doesn't sound like this was affecting how you actually interacted with them too much.
On a day probably didn't see all that in the earlier stages, not see all too much difference.
Yeah.
Didn't act any different, didn't tell them about any of it. Just every once in a while, not been feeling the best, and just a bit under the weather.
Yeah.
But that's about it.
And you don't think they ever kind of picked up on maybe that was deeper than you were letting on?
They did later.
Yeah,
but
a bit later.
Probably not to the extent I was at.
Yeah.
But, they knew something was up by the time I got to a point where they were like, "You're right, mate. Seriously." I was like, "Yeah." I'd always just say, "I'm all right." But it's hard to describe what you're feeling when you don't really know yourself.
Yeah, of course. There's a lot of truth in that, and obviously we shared quite a few friends really, and we were mates at points, and it's hard to, I think when you're that age, it's kind of quite hard to pick up on that stuff, and you're very teenagers are very focused on themselves. Really, they're focused on what they're doing. I think when you get to sort of this age, and especially with mental health being talked about quite a lot, I like to think that it'd be quite easy to pick up on things like that. But yeah, when you're dealing with teenagers, it's quite easy for that to get sort of just not picked up on. So I think you've really talked a bit about this anyway, but at this point, your outlook on life was pretty bleak.
Yeah. So I'd say end of 2018 was the roughest point for me. Was taking a real dark turn with my thoughts. Not wanting to be me anymore. Just didn't really feel like living. I didn't see a point in it all because I was just unhappy at every time of the day. Only small moments of happiness when you go out with your friends, but then you come back. Couldn't even get to your friends. So
right,
hard to be around.
And then at some point you went back to college, right?
I did, yeah.
Would you say that was in the midst of like the worst part?
Yeah.
And
100%.
and do you think, did that help? Do you think?
It kept my mind busy.
Yeah.
There was a part of me that thought that going back to college would sort the problem.
Yeah.
Obviously, people naturally on about doing something and finally doing something,
Yeah.
but I'm no happier.
Yeah,
If
you're
anything,
still-
I'm feeling worse. So it was a bit of a kick in the nuts.
I can imagine. Yeah. I think that's the problem, especially with like, I think a lot of mental health stuff can be explained by sort of not feeling fulfilled and things like that. But actually, there's a part of it where sometimes that's just where your emotions are at, and that like you hear stories of the most successful people who are not happy at all. And I think if you kind of if you're in that place, sometimes it doesn't matter what you do, and that the only way to really start working towards kind of being better is to like slowly introduce things and keep pressing on until your brain gets kind of used to being more busy and used to having like more positive interactions and stuff like that. And it's never a quick fix, even if like, as you said, you had this idea in your head that like the reason you might be feeling this way could be because you've got no direction, right? And
Yeah.
you kind of believe that because people were telling you that. And then it becomes kind of devastating to then find out, shit, like it kind of felt like your saving grace would be the fact that you got back to college and you were on a pathway to then find out, fuck, actually I still feel the same.
Yeah, it was rough knowing that. Well, I got a job as well at the same time.
Yeah.
Started a Glyborn and thinking that would all solve it.
Yeah.
And then realise it hasn't. Was it like worrying for myself?
Yeah. Of course. So I'm guessing at this point, and this, would you say that feeling of like, oh, well, I'm doing things better, but yet I still feel the same way. Did you then start to think about whether you maybe needed some serious help?
Yeah, well, I left it a little long because I did honestly think just keep sticking with it, and then maybe
things will change.
It will finally change.
Yeah.
I did have a breaking point where I did have a breakdown to my stepdad, which is, I don't know why, out of all the people, it was just him at that time. At that point, I was like, oh God, I need help because I haven't even gone to a friend, I haven't gone to, I just broke down in front of someone I'm not as close with.
Yeah.
It might be time to get help.
Yeah. So you did?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Yes.
And what was the process of that?
So obviously my stepdad told my mum.
Yeah.
And being through it all herself, she was saying we should go to a doctor to get help after I had talked her through everything I was feeling.
Yeah.
She probably realised before I knew how bad the extent of it was.
Do you think before that she had noticed things? Like, do you think so? This whole
my mum had noticed a lot.
And you think that's because she had her own experience?
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah. And just like pausing with that for a second, did your mum ever like talk to you in depth about her experience?
No.
No.
My mum doesn't talk all that much about it. She does with my sister.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe it's wrong with Dad. I still don't talk about it all that much with them. I just soldier on, but at the time I couldn't. So I had to talk to her about it, and she was very open with what I was feeling and helping me through it. But I didn't feel the need to go into her side of it while I was feeling shit. Yeah.
Okay. So she wanted to get you help. She heard from your stepdad, and I guess she thought that was a good opportunity to be like, okay, we need to do something about this. So what was the process?
So she thought I should go to the doctor to see what they think's wrong.
Yeah.
Obviously, she knew it was nothing physical, but to go to the doctor to get an assessment.
Yeah. Or like to check if it was anything physical, just in
case.
No,
my mum knew it wasn't. It was just go to the doctor, and I was okay. I didn't really know. I didn't even know like SSRIs were a thing at the time.
Yeah.
So she took me to the doctor, who immediately said, "Yeah, you've got depression." I was like, "Okay," and he was like, "I think we should put you on some pills to try help you bounce back."
Was that because I've quite a big interest in how easy it is to get prescribed antidepressants now, and I'm always a bit cautious whether to really talk about that, because in no way am I saying people shouldn't have access to antidepressants, but it is a bit scary how easy it is to get them. So was that from the first appointment?
It was. I walked out the door with them.
Really?
Yeah, I think I did. Yeah, yeah. They put me on what was it, a monthly plan?
Monthly plan. What, they're checking with you every month?
So for the first 2 months it was every 2 weeks.
Okay.
I think.
Well, at least they're checking in with you. That's abnormal.
But it was a monthly amount of tablets, and then come back and have a proper assessment and see how much longer they think or how you're doing.
And do you remember what the SSRI was?
No. I don't know. It was something Pan, I want to say, or Zam.
Wasn't Prozac?
Maybe.
So I'm trying to think of what Prozac.
If you name them through, I probably would be able to pinpoint
The thing is, Prozac, I think, is actually the American drug name. I can't actually remember what the actual name was. For some reason, I remember it being Prozac. Like, I don't know why I have a memory of that. Fluoxetine, maybe? I can't remember. Anyway.
They went through them all with me, so I know all the names, but I can't remember which one I was on. Because they said, try this one first, and then...
Citalopram, sertraline, fluoxetine.
I think it's that first one.
Citalopram.
Maybe.
Yeah, it might be.
I thought it was in brown.
Yeah, well, I mean, SSRI is always quite strange to me, because technically they're all SSRIs, right? Selective serotonin uptake inhibitors. So you would think they all did the same thing, yet they react quite differently for different people. But yeah, I think in the UK, I think the most common of fluoxetine, sertraline, and citalopram. And citalopram is actually quite good for anxiety as well. So yeah, so you started taking it. Did you start taking it straight away?
Straight away. They said, take it straight away. They said it will feel a lot worse at first, and then if it's not reacting great with you, come back and we can try another one if it's still feeling down.
Yeah.
When I first started taking them, it was rough.
Yeah.
In all honesty, it made me feel worse.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, what is the point in these? Then
if
anything, I feel even worse.
Yeah.
I can't do this. But my mum told me to stick it out, and then all of a sudden they really just kicked in.
Really?
It worked really well for me.
And how long do you think that was?
I think it's the first month was terrible.
Yeah, and then they started.
It was an immediate after I went from feeling like terrible back to normal, or normal to how I was feeling at the time.
Yeah.
2.5 months, 3 months, started to see a bit of an improvement.
Yeah.
And then after 6 months, started to
feel back to normal. That's good, because antidepressants can be real hit and miss. And I was on sertraline for, like, I went through hell at the start of sertraline. Couldn't sleep, was just wired, panic attacks, like it was just vile. But I kind of kept soldiering on through it, I guess, because people had told me the same thing, like the first couple of weeks will be rough. And then it like calmed down after like 2-3 weeks. But I was on sertraline then for another year, and I can't say that it helped me at any point in that year. So personally, SSRIs have never been that helpful for me. Now I'm on mirtazapine, which isn't an SSRI, but it's been a lot more helpful. But it's good to, because there can be a lot of side effects, because it's quite horrible going on to them sometimes. It's good that people do benefit from them, right? It's good to hear that, like, it does work for some people, even if I'm not really one of those people.
My mum had tried multiple antidepressants as well as anxiety medication.
Yeah.
And she also had similar experiences, that she's gone through so many, and none of them really done anything.
And she said she didn't, it wasn't even that she tried quite a few, and she found one. They just didn't really do much.
She's stuck with the one that works the best.
The best.
It's not.
No.
Still not the best, but.
Do you know which one that is? No.
No, I have no idea.
So do you know when? Because she said she hasn't talked about it with you that much, but do you know when that started for her? Was it? No.
No, probably from a young age.
Yeah.
I don't really know.
It'd be interesting if it was a similar time.
Yeah.
To be
I
fair.
know my sister goes through it as well.
That's what I was literally just about to say, is because I remember we've had conversations where you said about your sister being quite anxious, having some issues with anxiety. So you've got to wonder whether there's something biological there.
It's running in the family.
It's running in the family. Although I don't know how your sister's doing these days, but obviously you've sort of overcome it. And I'd like to hear that your sister has as well.
She's doing a lot better.
She's doing a lot
better. I
better.
don't delve that deep into it. She's got a lot of stuff on her plate, but compared to what she used to, she's doing a hell of a lot better. That's
good. That's really good. Okay, let's just, because this is what I wanted to ask you before, let's just go back to, so you got the diagnosis, and I really want to sort of get into your head about, like, what were your thoughts of diagnosis? Like, some people find it validating, some people find it scary. What did you think about when he said, "Oh yeah, you've got depression"?
So firstly, just shocked, in all honesty, which I shouldn't have been.
Yeah.
With how I was feeling, not thinking it could be something that could happen to me. You know, you see it on TV and stuff. You think, "Oh, that just won't happen to me." But then when you get told, it is happening to you, it's a bit like, "Oh, didn't realise that was even possible."
Yeah.
And I remember thinking when he first told me, like, is it that bad? When realistically, it bloody was.
Yeah.
So I don't know why I was in denial of it at first.
Yeah.
But to hear it from the doctor himself was a bit. People have been like, "Oh, you're down some. You need to probably go get some help." And I'm like, I was bounced eventually. And then to hear the doctor say, it's like, okay, I need help to try and get back now, because otherwise it's not going to get better.
Otherwise it's wraps. Okay, so you went on the antidepressants. They started to help. Did he talk about therapy or anything at the same time?
You mentioned therapy after, if it were to not get better.
Yeah.
Thankfully, it did work for me.
Yeah.
He went through a lot with me about how people can feel, about how I'm feeling, and it was quite validating. And okay, is it normal? When it felt so unnormal. And saying that we could go to therapy after if you're not feeling better, and we could try other stuff with the other SSRIs. So that was a good feeling, knowing that it was quite an instant, like, okay, this is what they meant by getting help.
Yeah.
So that was good.
Nice. So do you kind of attribute the majority of the getting better to the antidepressants then?
I think I have to.
Yeah.
And part of me doesn't think so, because I think it's the mixture of those and finally actually doing stuff and being where I wanted to be. I think at the time I didn't think, I thought that was going to make me better, and it didn't make me feel better, and then these made me feel worse, and then I was thinking, how is it still now worse? But when it started to piece together that I'm starting to feel a bit better, I realised that maybe they have actually done something to me and helped my brain chemistry, or something in me had changed.
Yeah.
I think the fact that I was already on the right path and then taking them, I think if I were to start taking them when I was in my absolute worst place, I might have had a different effect, and it might have been a different story.
Because that's interesting, because actually in quite a lot of cases, what antidepressants can be quite good for is when you're in an absolute rut and you can't push towards doing things that will benefit you. So the antidepressants can kind of give you a bit more oomph, a bit more ability to actually get up and do things that will help you. Whereas with you, it sounds like it was kind of the other way around. And it's interesting whether that was coming anyway, because you say it was about 6 months before it started to really benefit you.
That's when I saw the first improvements, I'd say.
Yeah.
after
So
6 months.
in theory, it's not crazy to think that had you had that 6 months without the antidepressants, that you might have started to improve anyway.
Yeah, there is a chance of it. I do also think they did help me get out more though. With seeing my friends.
Yeah.
I was already trying to do my career stuff, trying to get life back on track, but getting my social aspect back up was definitely improved by them. Because I know for a fact I was not going out as much before them than I was after I took them.
And social, like, relationship, social connection is like so important, especially when you're depressed. And I think there's like people written books on it now, about it being the kind of a lack of it being the cause of a lot of people's depressions. So at this time, when sort of the 6 months when it started to help you, what did you start to then do anyway that was like you felt more like you're aiming for something, you're going somewhere?
So I think it was at the time I'd been promoted at Climb One, so I'd got a promotion at my job.
Yeah.
And was coming towards the end of college, and that for me was a bit of a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
Thinking, okay, I've got through that now, and finally did what I was thinking the whole time, thinking was not possible. I was finally near the end of it, and I had done it.
Yeah.
So that combined with taking them, I think was just something, maybe a bit of relief on my mind, just helping me de-stress and stop getting so anxious and overthinking everything.
Yeah.
Obviously, after I then had to think about the next step, which was
more stress.
More stress. But I got saved by lockdown, so it was
Me too, mate. Me too. That's interesting as well, because would you say that you were kind of over the most of the issues before lockdown started?
I was starting to come to the end of it.
Yeah.
So going into lockdown was a bit scary at first, I won't lie, because I was thinking, I'm now going to not be out. I'm going to be stuck in my room with my own thoughts. But
you're going to regress.
I didn't even know how long I thought I was going to regress. But it turned out actually it did help me a lot. Actually, it was like a bit of a victory lap. Like I'd done what I needed to do.
Yeah.
And then I had that time just to relax, and I had all this time to think. And I didn't stress. I was like, okay, once I'm done with lockdown, then I've had all this time to think of what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Not just constantly thinking, what am I doing? What am I doing?
Yeah.
I just knew once it was done, I had a certain amount of time to figure it all out.
The thing with lockdown is there was a lot of talk about the effect it's had on young people's mental health, right? And I sort of I did some babysitting where I spoke to the parents, and they were a bit like, oh, that must have been like really difficult for you. But like lockdown came at a time for me where, I mean, it wasn't actually so much when it came about, but when I'd just come out of hospital and basically I needed time. Like I moved back with my parents, and I just needed time to get myself together. And lockdown just allowed that. Like I didn't have to go anywhere. My parents were pretty worried about me going out because I just tried to fucking end myself. And so it literally allowed me to, like, that's when I arguably started recovering properly, was during lockdown. So I've never had that experience of like lockdown actually being bad for my mental health. And like you're saying, I've spoken to a few people who they had the same experience. Not to say that it obviously wasn't really bad for quite a lot of people, but I think especially me, like I wasn't the most sociable of people at the time, and so it was just relaxing, and I didn't have to go out and shit like that. But yeah, okay, so was there anything during that time that during the time of like the antidepressant starting to work, anything else you tried in terms of self-help?
Yeah, I did try to do a bit of like mindfulness, a bit of mental wellness.
Yeah. How did that go?
Didn't do much.
No.
No.
I tried.
In all honesty, it just every time I tried, I just felt in my own thoughts. Maybe if I kept it up.
Yeah.
After trying for a little while, I was like, I don't know if this is helping at all.
Yeah.
It wasn't not helping, but it wasn't helping.
It wasn't helping. Yeah, because I spent a lot of time trying to sort of reduce my anxiety with mindfulness and meditation, to the point where I got this tattoo of a Buddha. So I got really into it, but I don't know, I find it really hard to like stick to things like that. So like I got to a place where I would meditate, and then when I came out of meditating, I would just feel like still. I would just feel like relaxed, and like I wasn't used to feeling relaxed. But yeah, I just like, for some reason, sitting down for 10 to 20 minutes to do something that I guess gave me no like stimulation, which is, I find it really hard to keep doing that, because I think my brain is very like it's the same with my phone, like I'm constantly needing to do things. And so I found that quite difficult, but it can be really beneficial. Anything else? Maybe like exercise or like any reading?
Yeah, so I did try a bit of exercise. Once again, exercise is something I always try to do, but
Yeah.
I never keep to.
Yeah.
Well, so yeah, I tried a bit of that. I felt like that did actually help. It kept my mind busy. It was like a task I had to do in the day, and when I'd done the task, it made me feel better about myself.
Yeah, of course.
Actually doing it, didn't enjoy.
No. What were you doing, like runs?
Did enjoy the mindfulness. I remember lying in my bed trying to be like there, relaxed.
Yeah.
And I'd come out of it just irritated.
Yeah.
I was there like,
it does. It like, does take time to be
frustrated.
Fair. Yeah.
Felt like a waste, but
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So were you like running? Were you doing runs, like exercise?
I was doing weight. Well, I did. I had it's called like a cycle machine at the house. I was doing that, and then a bit of weights and stuff. Because
cardio is hell. I was the same. Like I got into periods where I would go like running. Like I kept pushing myself to try, and I got up to like 6 mile runs, and then I would just like stop it. Like one day I'd stop it and never do it again, and then I started like going to the gym and weightlifting, and I guess it wasn't easy to do at first, but like at some point it just became a part of my life. And now like any day that I have somewhat free, the gym is the first thing I need to go and do. And I think like I talk about it quite a lot, but I generally think that gym for me was a big like component in getting better, and not even so much the fact that it was exercise, more that it just gave me a structure. Like I would quite often wake up on a day that I had nothing to do and feel horribly depressed. Like I've got fuck all to do today. Like I feel completely lost. And then when I started going to the gym, I never had that. I would wake up and I would at least think, okay, I've got the gym. I can go to the gym. I'll go to the gym, spend 2 hours at the gym, and then come back, and I would be in a better mental state after going to the gym. And I keep seeing like things on Reddit where people are like, please stop like suggesting the gym to better your mental health. It doesn't work for everyone. And I think, yeah, obviously it doesn't work for everyone, but I think when something's been quite a big component in sort of helping you get better, it's quite hard not to preach it. Yeah. And that's how I feel with the gym. I like, even if you don't think exercise actually makes you feel better, having a structure is really important, especially with depression, I think, but also with like anxiety.
So I know for me, they always say if you do something for a month, it becomes a habit.
Yeah, exactly.
I would do the exact opposite. I'd almost certainly do a month every time. Within the next week or two, I would give up.
Just stop.
Just stop. And for me, the only good benefit was it was saying, "Oh, I've done my task." It makes you feel good.
Yeah.
But then the days when you didn't do your task, like when you rest days, and you still felt like you could work out, you're like,
you feel
I should
like
just do it.
Yeah.
Like, I shouldn't, because I'll ache, and then it's not the best way for your muscles to grow.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. To be fair, it does get a bit obsessive, because then you get like I've been, the last 3 weeks I've been stupid busy. Actually, I said last 2 months I've been stupid busy, and I've been to the gym so much less, and it does make me feel pretty shit about myself, to be honest. So there is another side of it where you do get quite obsessive with it, and when you don't go, you feel worse about yourself. But yeah, okay, so I think I want to sort of round it off with these days, so what do you ever have like kind of depressive thoughts pop up, and do you have sort of ways of rationalizing them and stopping yourself spiraling?
Yeah. So my way of dealing with them, I always just say, just a bad day. You've done it before.
Yeah.
And yeah, there are days where like you feel, how I used to feel, but I know that how I am now, it's not a constant thing.
Yeah.
And just telling myself it's not a constant thing anymore. You don't have to worry about it. Is how I comfort myself in knowing that it will be okay.
Yeah.
And get through it. Obviously, it can be a bit alarming when you're having thoughts like that and you feel like you're doing great. Like it's not always, you're not all of a sudden just great all the time.
Yeah.
But that's just part of it all, I think. It's just getting through those days that you do realise that it's still part of your life and it happened to you. But
I think that's the thing. If you can get to a point where you can recognise that it's just an off day, then you're never going to really spiral back into where you were. But I think what becomes quite scary, and it's something like, again, I'm in more of a place that you're talking about now, but for a long time, even when I started to improve, I would have like a day where I woke up and felt really anxious, and the whole day I would just be terrified that I was going back into like being anxious 24/7 and like panic attacks and stuff. And I think that's what, when you have a really like intense experience of mental health, it's quite easy to really freak out when some of those thoughts pop up.
Yeah. I've had times where you do freak out.
Yeah.
You just, for me, I know that when I'm freaking out, if I were to fully go down that path again, I now know not what I need to do completely, and I know it's not as simple as just I'll do it. I know what I'm doing this time. It'll be fine. But I think the comfort of knowing that I have felt the worst I could probably ever feel into feeling almost back to myself.
Yeah, it's that confidence.
The confidence of it all.
Yeah, you can trust that. You know, there's an end sight. But I think that's the thing, when you experience kind of a dip, like a bad mental health dip that you've never experienced before, there's no, I mean, obviously you can look at other people telling you that, oh yeah, I got through this, but like you never really believe them. In your head, you've got nothing that you've learned, so therefore in your head, how do you know there's any way out of this? And I think once you go through something once, you at least know that there's a way out of it, and it's easier to kind of get through again. But it's just, especially when you like younger people, when you go through it that first time, it's really scary. Do you ever do you ever think that like there's a possibility that it'll sort of rear its head at some point in your life again? Yeah.
Yeah, of course I do. I think about it a lot, to be fair.
Yeah.
But I've got a decent mentality at the moment of just don't think about it until it comes. If it does come again, then here we go again. But
buckle up.
Buckle up. I think it's one of those things you don't ever fully get over. Yeah. I personally don't feel the same as I was before.
Yeah.
But I'm now different to what I feel like I'm a completely different person after I've been through it all.
Yeah.
I just think that now that I've been through that, I'm at the end of the tunnel. I've seen the better life of it. That it's going to be okay. I think once I go back, I will be able to just switch.
Yeah,
I suppose if it takes. I think I say that probably wouldn't. That it's such a mental piece on your mind. But
I think the only thing I would say, that I don't know if this will fucking put your mind at ease at all, but obviously when you're a teenager, you got all these like hormones going on, like all this shit going on, that I think there's probably a lot of people who went through that stuff at that age and then never had to deal with it again. I think when your brain starts to like fully form, you can deal with stuff like that quite a lot easier. So yeah, I wouldn't be expecting it to come around again. I was just wondering whether that was something you thought about, really.
I think there's more of a high likelihood that it will, in my personal experience. Okay. I just think if your brain has that in it, because for me, very scary experience having depression. I
Yeah.
not very much enjoy it.
No.
I
Shit.
just think if it was able to do that without me realizing the first time, it can easily do it again. But I think coming out of it, being through it, that's how it will be okay.
Yeah. Well, personally, I'm gonna believe that I'm never going through that shit again because I can't take that. And I genuinely think with like a lot of external stuff going on with me, I generally think that there was a lot of reason for why I went through the darkest part I went through, and that unless all that stuff happens again, or unless I don't treat myself in the right way again, I don't think I'll ever reach those depths.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with you on that one.
Yeah.
I will not be doing what I was doing at the time,
Yeah.
or treating myself how I was treating myself like that anymore.
Yeah, because it becomes like, I think for me, like you become so desperate for something to make you feel better that actually you just end up driving yourself into the ground even more. And yeah, without going into too much detail, I will never make that mistake again.
Agreed.
Yeah, no chance. I just quickly wrapping back, the order of this is going to be a bit fucked up by this, but how was coming off the antidepressant? Was it easy enough?
So I had a bit of I said this to you earlier, but I had a bit of a weird mentality on them because I know that my mum's been on them for, I don't know how long, but I know it's been a very long time.
Yeah.
When I first started taking them, I was actually really apprehensive.
Yeah. Apprehensive, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I didn't want to go on them, not because I didn't want the help. For me, I saw them as something I could become like reliant on.
Yeah.
Something that I would have to always have.
Yeah.
To be happy. So as soon as I could get off them, I did.
Yeah.
Or I tried to. Yeah, I think I actually came off them earlier than the doctor told me to.
Right. Okay.
Which I quickly realised was not a smart idea, and went back onto them again.
Yeah.
And did the whole period suggested.
So did you try and cold turkey them first? Just stop them straight?
Yeah, well, when I first started feeling just a slight bit of happiness, I was like, okay, that'll be fine.
Yeah.
I don't want to become dependent on them. I'm going to just stop taking them.
Yeah.
I'm on the right track now, I'll be fine.
Yeah.
Very quickly realised that that's not how they work.
Yeah.
And after I realised, I didn't have to go back to the doctor. This was all me just saying, I went to him when I did my checkup and he's like, have you been taking them? I was like, actually, I stopped taking them at one point.
Yeah.
And then realised I need to keep taking them. And he was like, yeah, please do.
Yeah.
So he set a time period. He said, you've got to at least stick out this amount of time.
Yeah.
Which I did.
And then when you came off them, did you again just stop them? Or did you taper off? You didn't taper off them?
Didn't take anything, cold turkey.
Built different, mate.
It was quite rough.
Was it?
Yeah, because you felt good, but at the same time it was slightly off.
Yeah. Still
felt a bit off, and you're like, you were on the edge. You didn't know if you were gonna go good or go bad.
Yeah.
I didn't know whether to just stick it out or go back and be like, oh, maybe I should take a bit longer.
Yeah.
But I luckily came out on the right side, but it did take a bit of an adjustment period.
Yeah. Good. So that's like I've covered all of my questions really. Was there anything you wanted to add? Anything you wanted people to know, or no? Most people have said no. It's only
no. I mean, I think for most people, my experience is not uncommon.
Yeah. And
I think people who know me probably realise it can just be a little blip in time. Yeah. Everyone knows that I'm pretty back to myself how I am. Yeah. It was not a long time period I felt that bad.
Yeah.
So it can just be a quick momentary bliss for some, I say a couple of years, but in your whole lifetime it's not a lot of time.
Yeah.
So just realise for some people maybe they are feeling bad, it can just be a quick experience.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. And I think I would add to that especially at that age, if you're feeling that way, really try and refrain from turning to things that aren't healthy, because you just run the risk of prolonging something that you could actually sort of get over quite quickly. But yeah, I think that was good.
I definitely did drastic differences in my life.
Yeah. To
get myself better. It was not easy work
to
do it that quick. So it might look like I'm lucky. Oh, he just had it just for a small amount of time.
Yeah.
I really tried hard to make sure I did feel better.
Yeah.
Because I was pretty worried about at the time that it could not get worse. So
that's the thing.
It had to get better.
You've got to put the effort in, and that's the whole catch-22, isn't it?
Because it's not easy to do.
No, it's not easy, especially when you feel like you have no energy for anything. But yeah, slowly, like asking someone for help is always really important. Like reach out to the people around you, because if you don't have the strength, then maybe you can kind of get the strength from someone else, and they can support you. But yeah, no, it was good to dive into that. And yeah, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's all right.